And we are live with Dr. Chris Willard. Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing?
I'm doing so well. It's so nice to see you again. Here we are in our back home again, but it's great to see you. Doing
Yes.
well.
I was very excited to meet you and to just your bio is great. You have so many accomplished so many things, 19 books, and it's amazing. And you're teaching now in Harvard, and you're helping people to grow and focusing on mindfulness. And I know that your talk in the conference was about mindfulness.
Mhm.
And I've seen your book that was like Alpha Breathe.
Alpha breaths. Yep,
Alpha Breath. Okay, Alpha. Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, I hold it in my hand there. So it's amazing. So was happy to meet you and really looking forward to hear because I missed your session. So would be looking forward to hear how did it go there and what did you do in the conference?
Yeah, absolutely. And the conference was so much fun. Meeting you, meeting so many other wonderful speakers, meeting so many amazing participants it was really an experience of a lifetime for, I know, the presenters, and I hope it was too for all the folks in the audience. I know, yeah, meeting you and hanging out was just great. So, yeah, I spoke a lot about mindfulness and mindfulness with kids and the importance of mindfulness in terms of self-regulation. And we know that our children these days, even before the pandemic, were struggling with this idea of self-regulation,
Mm,
struggling with focus, struggling with managing their emotions, struggling with record rates of anxiety, and truly around the world, not just here in the US. And it's been interesting to travel more and hear from both parents and kids about worries about stress and in terms of world events and other things that are stressing all of us out all the time,
yeah.
and to be able to share the ways that that impacts then our mental health. And it surprised me actually as I travel how much I hear from young people talking about mental health concerns. I think social media has been really not a great thing in many ways for young people, but there's been a lot of understanding and less stigma attached to very treatable issues like anxiety and depression and others that I know
Mhm,
parents might be concerned about. When does stress turn into these things? But
mhm,
to me, what I spent a lot of time discussing in the conference was what are ways that we adults, what are ways that we can respond to and validate and support our kids when they're having a hard time, but that really starts with ourselves.
mm,
I had a slide up that said something like, never in the history of calming down has anyone ever calmed down by being told to calm down.
yeah.
And that's because when we want our kids to calm themselves, to be more subtle, to focus, we have to model that. And
Mm,
what we do actually with our brains, it's amazing, the neuroscience, we do something called co-regulation,
mm,
where our emotions, we know that all of our emotions are contagious, our positive, happy emotions, as well as stress and worry and anxiety. So when we regulate our own emotions, we start to help a child regulate their emotions, which their brains aren't necessarily developed enough to do when they're young. So we
mm,
find these fun ways through mindfulness, through breathing, through play, to calm ourselves and also to help our kids calm and settle and regulate to do the learning that they need to do, whether it's the academic learning or whether it's the social and emotional learning that's going to make them good citizens of this world who are helpful to other people and do those things and have those values that we want them to have growing up. So
mm.
that's sort of the overview of what I talked about. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that you're talking about emotional synchrony and like
Mhm.
synchronizing your emotion with your child so that you can empower them and teach them. So you work on yourself first so that you are calm enough, and then you would be
Mhm.
able to regulate any other kids' emotions.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just curious. You said that you went to like dozens and dozens of countries. You went over like over 20 countries, and you were seeing this kind of anxiety and depression. And what else are you seeing, and what age is it starting? I mean, you were talking about young adults or as early as 4 years old, 5 years old during the past 3 years.
Well, I think in the pandemic, what we've seen accelerate some of these mental health issues, mostly anxiety, some depression as well. Those I'd say are the biggest ones that we see. Kids worried about the future, kids struggling with transitions, kids struggling to say goodbye in school at a younger age, more social anxiety, less social confidence, partly because they haven't had so much practice because of the pandemic. And then partly also because even before the pandemic, a lot of time on screens, right? Those other things that we worry about as parents. And so when they don't get practice, then they get more anxious oftentimes. And we know that the stress of growing up in the 21st century, with climate change, with political instability, with other challenges, with pandemics, that stress impacts our physical nervous system, and it
Yeah.
really impacts our emotional or psychological nervous system. So when we're under stress, whether it's
Mm.
about getting grades or doing well in sports or whatever it might be, right, it actually changes our nervous system and wires us so that we experience more difficulties with learning. We experience more difficulties managing our impulses. Stress shuts down this part of our brain here, the prefrontal cortex, where we think things through and solve complicated problems and understand other people's emotional states, and our emotional intelligence part of the brain called the insular cortex on the side, which helps us to perceive other people's motivations and these kinds of things, and have empathy. These kinds of things stop working when we're under stress, whether it's traumatic stress or academic stress or everything in between. And
Mm.
so then this manifests as all these worries that so many parents have about their kids growing up. Are they resilient enough for this world? Are they flexible enough for this world? Are they able to have the social and emotional intelligence skills that we want them to have for this world? So that's a lot of what I see, whether it's in South America or Singapore or in the Gulf or in Europe or North America. So many parents are worried about the same kinds of issues
Exactly. Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So being worried themselves, they are not helping themselves to help your children.
Well, I've been joking about this a lot in talks because worry is one of the most contagious emotions. And yet also as parents, like it's fine if you worry. It's fine actually if you lose it sometimes as a parent. I think during this pandemic, I've got a 4-year-old, I've got an 8-year-old. I lost my temper, absolutely, at times over these past few years. What's important is that when we lose our temper, we find a way to then make that repair.
Mm.
What kids need to know is not that people don't lose their temper, because that's not how the world works, but that people don't get worried, or that people don't get sad. But what's important for kids is when they see what the adults are doing about
And
those things.
doing, yeah.
So like I remember I had my email stopped working one day, and I was really frustrated, and I kind of snapped at my wife, and I felt really bad about it. And as a family that night, we were doing a practice we called Roses and Thorns, where we practice some gratitude and we talk about the challenges of the day and the things we look forward to. And my wife said, "Well, my thorn was when Dad wasn't very nice to me." And I really thought for a minute, and I thought, you know what? I lost my temper in front of the kids. It's really important that I then show how to make a repair in front of the kids. And I said, you know what? I'm really sorry. Like I was really stressed out in that moment, and it's not an excuse, but that's the context. And how can I make it up to you? And so when kids, it's okay actually if parents argue. What kids need to see is parents repairing.
Sure.
It's okay if
Mm.
we disagree with our kids. What
Mm.
kids need to see is how to come to a compromise, because those are the skills that they're going to need when they have relationships and more friendships and workplace conflicts and things like that.
Mm. One of my friends attended your talk, and she was excited and happy about the outcome of your talk. And you did an exercise about mindfulness in the
Mhm.
session. So can you tell us more about this exercise so that I can know what happened to her?
Absolutely. I can't remember which one I did, but one of the things that I find really helpful for our own stress, we all know people say, "Oh, take a deep breath," right?
Yeah.
But taking a breath, there actually is research. When
Mm.
you breathe deeper and slower. We have different nerve endings at the bottom of our lungs. So you breathe more slowly and deeply. The oxygen hits those nerve endings and it tells our bodies to calm down. It tells our brains that we're safe, that we can focus on what someone else is saying, that we can be open to new ideas and perspectives and understand people in different ways and have empathy, that we're no longer in danger. So I'll sometimes say, like, the reset button is in the bottom of your lungs. You have to breathe deeply, hit that reset button, and then your brain can focus, your body can relax. And with children, we need to make that fun and interesting. So my favorite, one of my favorite ways of teaching breathing to kids is, and every culture is a little bit different, but in the US, we really love hot chocolate in the wintertime. So we can imagine we've got like a mug of hot chocolate here, a bowl of soup or something like that, and you can
Just
breathe in smelling
mm,
and then blowing out, cooling it off. Breathe in smelling and blowing out, cooling it off. A few of these breaths with our kids, a few slowing our ways of regulating our breath as adults, maybe when we get home from a stressful day at work or I know you're in Egypt. I have never seen traffic like I saw in Egypt when I was there last month. And I was thinking, like you get home, you park your car, just take a moment before you go inside, just take a few breaths. Or maybe just notice, can I listen and notice 5 sounds around me? Or notice 3 sensations in my feet right now. And then open the door, right? Get out, go home, walk in the door as a parent, and I'm more present, I'm more calm, right? So that when there's something challenging going on at home, the kids are arguing about this or that, right? That then I can respond rather than react to whatever it is that's happening. So just breathing, and again, we adults might not do hot chocolate breaths, but just finding a way to slow our breath down
can
can
do
be
the coffee breath, or you can do it in Egypt.
coffee. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. For sure. For sure.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
Your last book was about how we grow from what we go through. That is,
Mhm.
it's the last book you have done. Is it the last one? Is it up there?
There we go. I
Okay.
didn't mean to put those on the shelf today. It's part of my, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
The
I'm
cleaning
very
people.
curious to know about it because it's a journey of understanding ourselves and the pain that we go through and how we overcome things, and then we become mature and understand the wisdom of things. So, yeah.
Well, before we went live, you and I were talking about the group that you're doing, the leadership group, about how important it is to understand our own story, to understand the way our own childhoods have impacted us, and how that continues to impact our ongoing relationships, whether it's in the workplace, and what are the things that we do want to repeat from our own childhood as we become parents, and what are the things that we don't want to repeat from our childhood as we become parents. What are the ways that we want to not just react to our own parents or rebel from our own parents, nor do we want to repeat it, but how can we find something in the middle? We take from the best, we take maybe, some of the wonderful skills that you're teaching parents, that other folks from the conference are teaching, and bring those together to be our own parent. And I think what's important is that we all have difficult experiences that happen throughout our lives, whether it's childhood or beyond. How do we have those transform into, as you said, into wisdom, right? When we sit with and we come to some acceptance and examination around difficult events, we don't just learn how to tolerate it, but we learn how to actually befriend it so it can be a source of wisdom and inspiration for us going forward. So I always, as a therapist, like to ask people not just what are the hard things that you've been through, but how did you get through them? What were the inner resources? What were the outer resources? what are your strengths? What do your friends love about you? What do your kids love about you? What are these strengths that you have, so that we can come at things with a strength-based approach, not just, you've got this problem, you're doing this wrong. We all know the things we're doing wrong, right? But we forget to remind ourselves, there's a lot that I'm doing right. And there's a lot that I have overcome. How did I get through that difficult time when my own mother was sick? How did I get through that difficult time, right? When, the parents were fighting, or there were financial challenges. Not just how did I get it through it financially, but how did I get through it emotionally? Was it my sense of humor? Was it being creative and coming up with new recipes, right? What are these different things that we've drawn on in the past, our creativity, our humor, our hard work, our sense of community, that can continue to help us to grow, and that then we can model for our own children. And we can say, yeah, we had a hard time and this is how we handled it. Just like we can say, I snapped at your mom and I shouldn't have done that. We can say, this was another hard thing, or I get anxious and this is how I cope with it. That's important. Not that our kids don't see us worried, but when they see us worried, they know that they're safe, and that we maybe teach them a skill. Yeah, I get worried. This is what I do when I feel worried. Then we're giving them such a bigger gift than pretending that we don't worry, or that worry doesn't exist in this world.
So this book is like for adults or for young adults, or?
This is for adults. It's actually, I've written a lot of books for parents, and I've written a bunch of books for kids. This one's just sorry, I'm like, hey, buy the book.
Hey,
this one really is just for anybody who's been through some difficult times, or just wants to learn some really some self-compassion, mindful self-compassion skills, which is really about giving ourselves the same kindness that we would give a friend. Giving ourselves the same patience that maybe we hope that we're giving our kids, or that maybe we did receive at some points as a child, but maybe we wished we had more of. How do we give ourselves that same kindness? Because we've all got that critical voice in our minds that you're a terrible parent, you're bad at this. I know I have that. A lot of us do. How do we quiet that voice down and come up with a more compassionate one? Yeah.
Yes. And it's kind of, I'm curious to know that you're writing for young children and you're writing for adults, and you're trying to help everyone. So can you just give me something and tell me something about where is this coming from?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a writer when I was young, and I don't write, novels or anything, but I learned through writing. So I really love the process of writing, and I love teaching, and it's so creative for me to be able to write, whether it's books for little kids or books for grown-ups. And a lot of it comes out of, I had a reasonably happy childhood, but in my adolescence and university age years and young adulthood, I had a lot of stress and a lot of struggles myself. And that's when I found mindfulness. And it was really transformative for me. So I felt really, in some ways, on a mission. I want to share this with kids was my first mission. And then realizing, well, actually, it might actually be more helpful to share mindfulness and self-compassion actually with adults and parents and teachers, more than just students and children, or at least as important, because we can't have mindful kids without mindful parents. We can't have calm kids and well-regulated kids without well-regulated, kind and compassionate parents and teachers and grown-ups.
I love every single word you're saying.
I think I'm talking too much.
No, I love
I'll interview you next time because I want to hear more about your work.
At the same time, you were just here in Egypt like a month ago. You said you were in Alexandria, Egypt, and you were helping schools and trying to develop mindfulness there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was such a wonderful opportunity. A school reached out and they said, we'd love to have you do some work. How do you like to work? And I said, well, I like to meet with the kids and share some of my books with the little kids. And I like to do some practices with the teenagers, but that doesn't really stick unless I'm meeting with the teachers, unless I'm meeting with the parents also. And they said, okay, how about 4 days? You come out, you meet with all the kids, you meet with the parents, you meet with the teacher. I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is great. And so it was so much fun with the student leaders, the high school student leaders, so that they're, creating mindfulness and sharing it with the younger kids. So it's really just in the oxygen. Or my hope is that it's just in the oxygen that they breathe and in the culture of the institution now. But it was a wonderful experience, and meeting amazing families, amazing educators, and really sweet kids over the course of the week that I was there, and getting to understand Egypt and Egypt's history and culture was just an amazing experience.
Yeah.
And I got to see the pyramids on my way out. So
again, one more time when you come. I know that you hold the
pyramid. Pyramid breath. Pyramid breath.
Right. So much interesting to talk to you, Chris, and learn so much. And I love your energy. You want to help everyone around, and it's a mission for you. I can see this in every single breath you are talking about. It's coming out from your deep heart. So thank you so much for sharing a glimpse of what happened in the conference and a glimpse of what happened in Egypt, and looking forward to see you more in any conferences, or maybe when I go.
Oh my gosh. Next time you're here in the States, next time I'm in Egypt, next time hopefully we're all somewhere at a conference somewhere in Europe or the Gulf or the Middle East. Absolutely would love to hang out again, and I want to interview you next time. So I'm so excited. This has been just so fun, and the conference was so fun. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm looking forward to get this book. It seems like you have it all in one piece.
Yeah.
All the learning in one piece. So thank you so much, Chris, and looking forward for more collaboration.
Great.
Thank you. Bye-bye.